then lastly, and most important, you can do all four. You can have a good goals, you can have a burning desire, you can work hard for a long period of time. You can believe in yourself, you can believe in your products, you can believe in your company. But if you can't think right, it don't matter. You don't like what's in your life? Look at what you're thinking. I don't mean, Zig Ziglar called it stinking thinking. Well, there's a lot of realities to that. You think negatively, pretty well going to attract it, folks. There have been things in your life that you have thought about, you have written down, and you have achieved, and you never knew or understood how or why you did it, but it started with that original thought. And you had a burning desire to go for it, and you stayed the course to go make it happen. When you get inside of that framework, you can make great things happen. But you cannot think bad. You have got to guard your thoughts. So guard your company. If who you're around is pulling you down, you've got to get away. You just got to create the distance and separate. This community has a lot of people that get it. There's a lot of great people in the community. There's a lot of great people. I've traveled all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, England. There's a lot of great people throughout the world. You've got to be around those people. You're not going to go anywhere associated with the riffraff. It won't happen. You've got to get away from it. You can only get there with other people that are quality like you. If you plant a seed in your brain, and here's the thing you've got to understand. Your brain has absolutely no ability to know the difference. It's just a tool. That's all it is. It's just like the garden. Does the garden in the back of your house know the difference if you plant wheat or poison? Doesn't know the difference, does it? You water it, fertilize, guess what it's going to do? It's going to grow. You're either going to grow weeds or you're going to grow crop. Your brain is exactly the same. If you're watching hours of TV, you're reading hours of negative press, you're buying in and getting it, guys, it's going to destroy you because you're putting it here. You have to diffuse it for the knowledge that you need to go be functional with what you got to have to balance yourself, but you got to be watching your thoughts, which is the reason why when I told you at the very beginning, you got to read. You got to read, you got to read, you got to read. Get around the good people. Because here's what happens. You are either heading into a storm, you are either in the middle of a storm, or you're leaving one right now. Everybody in this room is in one of those three places. You're either going into a storm, you're in the middle of a storm, or you're coming out of a storm. You're going to be in one of those three places. Guys, storms are a reality. They are going to come. It just doesn't matter. You have to make the decision and go ahead and decide how you're going to handle it yourself. That's your thinking patterns. That's your goals. That's your desires. That's your vision. That's what a leader does. The captain of the boat that goes into the storm doesn't leave. If the captain shows weakness, everybody else is weak. You're dead. You're done. That's what your role, that's what your responsibility as a leader is. Recognize storms are a reality. Your belief systems, the things that we've talked about today, are what navigates the storms. It'll get you through it. And let me tell you something for some of you that are these high D personalities, kind of like myself. And I heard this about 3 weeks ago, and I said, man, I'm grabbing that. I'm keeping that one. Which, by the way, I don't know if there's an original thought out there in the first place. So, you know, if you do enough reading, you do enough listening to other people, next thing you know, you got a talk to give to somebody. I don't know that I ever had an original thought about any of these. It's probably original in how it's presented, because that's just who it is. But he made this comment. He was in a heck of a storm, riding a heck of a storm. And he said, you know what? Sometimes you just got to ride with the riptide. Sometimes you just got to ride with it. Because what happens if you get caught in the riptide and you start fighting against it? You end up wearing yourself because you can't beat it. So sometimes you just got to ride it. But those of us that are the aggressors, the competitors, you know, that message is for you. Look, understand, sometimes you just got to ride with it. And you're going to come out of that riptide. You're going to come out at the other end. You're not going to go under. But fighting against it can be the worst thing in the world. But it is the temptation to go do. It is the temptation to go do. And wrapping up, I want to tell you that, you know, I know it's hard at 3:30, but I got to tell you, you know, I appreciate your attentiveness. I want to tell you that I think that the whole journey comes down to one thing, and this is kind of the difference where we are with our youth today. By the way, you know, this is the first generation that's smarter than the older generation. It's the first time in the history of mankind that the youth are actually intellectually smarter than the generations ahead of them. We've never had this situation ever in our life. But this is what they don't have. They don't have wisdom. And that's the journey. The day you stop seeking wisdom is the day you stop growing. And here's what you're going to end up paying. And if you get around and you have to, and I don't necessarily encourage this, but it's going to happen in all of our lives, death's a reality. It's amazing how much we could spend another hour talking about how we don't know how to handle it. But it's an interesting phenomenon at the point of death, because at that point, there's been one of two prices that have been paid, and you will pay a price. You cannot avoid it. You will pay a price. But it's an interesting phenomenon. That individual has either paid the price of discipline, and they've lived a great life, and they've had a great life, or they've lived a life of regret. And you will die in one of those two. You will be at one of those two states. There is no other choice. All right? I encourage you. Seek wisdom. You don't have to agree with what I've said today. If you picked up one thing, it's been worth our time together. But stay on the positive course. Stay on the journey to seek wisdom. And guys, have the discipline to do the things that are right on a day-to-day basis. And the accumulation of all of that will add up to greatness when you're done. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.